Bryce Elder with a great return to the big leagues. Should he stay in the starting rotation long term? And Travis Darno just keeps on keeping on. We'll talk about that and more on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, and welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I am your host, Jake Mastriani. You can follow me on social media at Shortstop Ball. Make sure you follow the podcast there as well at LockedOn_Braves. Send in any questions, comments, or feedback you have for the podcast. I always enjoy hearing from you and letting me know how I can improve this podcast for you, the listener. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up button as well. Subscribe, rate, review, all the good things wherever you get your podcast. And thank you so much to all my everydayers out there making Locked On Braves your first listen of each and every day. We got Jeffrey Humphreys and his wife, Kimberly, who listen every day, big supporters of the show. Lion Man, David Agnesia, Doc's Cards, Killmanful in Chicago, letting me know on the last podcast that they are everydayers. Thank you so much for that. On today's episode of Locked On Braves, we'll talk about Monday's 3-0 win over the Marlins. Bryce Elder's great start. We'll take a deep dive into that and see, was it for real? Should he stay in the rotation? Travis Darno continues to stay hot. Another home run. Well-played game defensively. And if you know anything about me, you know how much I love defense. And I thought it was a fantastic game from the Braves defense on a Monday. And then our second segment, we're going to talk about the struggles of Matt Olsen, Austin Riley, and to a degree, Ronald Acuna Jr., who we already really did a deep dive on. And I'm going to tell you why you should not be concerned at all about those two sluggers. And then we'll preview Tuesday night's game with Max Fried on the mound. Before we do all that, though, today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side to me, and it always comes out when I play Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. Join your friends, download Monopoly Go today, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Let's jump into Monday's game, a 3-0 win over the Miami Marlins. And when I watched this game, and it was a quick game, very quick, but it was just a clean game. I mean, it's the kind of game that I love. I am more of a defensive-minded person. I love good pitching. I love great defense. And I feel like that's what you got in this one. And we'll dive into Bryce Elder start a lot more, but it was just the pitching aspect of it. It wasn't just rearing back and throwing 96, 97, which, trust me, I would love to see Spencer Strider out there doing that right now. But this, to me, is just an old-fashioned type of good, clean baseball game. You had good pitching, really, by both sides. You had some timely hitting by the Braves, and you had some really good defense by the Braves. You had one blunder on the Miami Marlins side that cost them a run. Most likely should have been probably a 3-1 game, maybe more. Marlins really let things get away in that first inning. But overall, I thought it was a clean game. I loved watching this, just a quick pace of it, the great pitching, keeping hitters off balance, and the good defense, most of all, from this game, which I'll talk more about. But I want to dive in specifically on Bryce Elder, and I really want to get into this start. Looking at the line, though, 6 2/3 innings, 8 hits, no walks, no earned, 4 strikeouts, 87 pitches. He only threw 30 pitches in the first 3 innings, so he was very efficient. Even in that long first inning where he gave up 3 hits to start the game, he only threw 10 pitches in that inning. Marlins came out, were very aggressive against him. And the Marlins are a team that he's seen more than anybody, so they've obviously seen him a lot. And their attack early was to attack, to be on the attack. And that certainly worked into Elder's advantage because he was able to get out of that jam and he was able to have some quick innings, allowed him to work into the 7th inning. I thought you probably could have given him the number 9 batter there in that 7th inning to see if he could go 7 complete, but I get it. His first start up the big league level this year in a close game, no reason to play around there and allow possibly the tying run to come to the plate. But overall, you look at the line, really good outing from Bryce Elder. 6 2/3, no earned runs. Doesn't really get much better than that. But I do need to dive into it a little bit more to see if this is real. Just highlighting, going over the entire game. First inning, obviously, 3 hits to start the inning. single, double, got out of the jam, but was leaving a lot of pitches over the middle of the plate. And one thing we talk about a lot with Bryce Elder, he can't miss over the middle of the plate. Most pitchers can't, but Bryce Elder in particular, two things he cannot do. He cannot fall behind in counts to where he has to throw that two-seamer over the plate. It's going to get crushed. He can't leave the slider up. It's going to get crushed. He has to be able to throw his pitches in spots where he can be effective. He did not do a great job of that in the first inning. He did not do a great job of that in the fourth inning, where I thought things maybe were starting to fall apart for him a little bit. Example of this, early in the game, I think it was the first at bat against Tim Anderson. He got him swinging on sliders just off the plate, down and away. Got Tim Anderson to 2 strikes in the second at bat, threw a slider off the plate, but it was up, and Tim Anderson was able to hit it the other way for an easy single. You start to see him leave that slider, and to a degree, the changeup up a little bit more, and that's when things can get really dangerous with Bryce Elder. So while I love this outing, and I thought for the most part he did a great job of living on the edges, and that's where he has to stay. He cannot afford to miss over the middle of the plate. So for the most part, outside of that first inning and the fourth inning, I thought he did a pretty good job of living on the edges, creating that weak contact, because he does have a ton of movement on his pitches. What makes him so effective, why I liked him so much last year, while I still like him so much as a fourth, fifth starter, I don't think he's an all-star. I don't think he's a top of the rotation type of guy. Some people may still have that expectation. I said from the moment he was drafted out of Texas, he's going to be a solid big leaguer at the back of the rotation. I firmly still believe that. And the reason, because there is just so much movement on that slider, on that changeup, and if you can, on the sinker, two-seamer, whatever you want to call it. And I thought he mixed up his pitches really, really well in this game to keep hitters off balance. I thought the second and third innings were the best versions of Bryce Elder. You go back and look at the pitches in those 2 innings specifically, almost everything is on the edges. Those were, when Bryce Elder is at his best, those 2 innings are what he can do. And those were 2 innings that he just breezed through, 10 pitches each, and was really just spotting up everything. Like I talked about, the fourth inning, started to leave some pitches up a little bit. Fifth, sixth innings were better, but still not to that second and third inning level. I know I'm going deep into this Bryce Elder start, but I think it's for a very good reason, because we need to know, is he the guy that is going to settle down this rotation and be able to sit in that fifth spot and give the Braves a chance to win every fifth day? If he pitches like he did on Monday, that is certainly going to be the case. It's not going to be 6 2/3 no earned every time out. You're going to face better lineups, and you got to take that into account. This Miami Marlins lineup is not good, but even so, I think with the pitches that he threw, the command that he had for the most part, this is still an outing that I would take against any team, and I think it would give the Braves a chance to win the game. Now, he gave up 8 hits. He gave up 10 hard hit balls in this game. 3 of those were the first 3 batters of the game. He gave up 4 total hard hit balls in that first inning. So he gave up some really good contact. Of the 10 hard hit balls, 4 of them were ground outs, and he got 9 ground outs to 3 flyouts, which is what you want with Bryce Elder. 4 of those hard hit balls went for hits. 4 of the 8 hits he gave up. 1 was a line out with an expected batting average of .560, and 1 of them a flyout. 90.9 mile per hour average exit velocity against. Not great, not terrible, but overall, like I said, I thought it was a really good outing from him. He threw 4 pitches 15 times or more, with the sinker and slider the pitches that he threw the most. 11 whiffs on 42 swings. It's a 26% whiff rate. Not terrible for Bryce Elder. Not going to get a lot of whiffs, but he will on that slider, and he got 5 whiffs on 11 swings against his slider, 8 called strikes on that sinker. You can't ignore the results that were really good, but as I mentioned, the margin for Bryce Elder is razor thin. He has to be able to live on those edges. He has to be able to create that weak contact. He has to be able to get ahead. The key for Bryce Elder, and for any pitcher, but especially Bryce Elder, if he can get ahead and he can live in that gray area of the strike zone, he's going to give up hits like he did on Monday night, 8 hits, but it's typically going to be singles. All of those hits, except for the one by Jazz Chisholm, was a single. And you can take that if you're not compounding that with walks, which he didn't on Monday. But again, you can see how the margin of error is kind of thin with Bryce Elder. If you're giving up those hits and you're walking some batters, now all of a sudden you're looking at 3, 4, 5 run outing from Bryce Elder. And you can see how quickly it can get away from you. But when you're commanding it, your pitches, you're not walking any batters, you can take those singles, because what those singles are, it's the Tim Anderson hit I'm talking about earlier, where you're getting ahead in the count and then you're forcing them to swing at your pitch just a little bit off the plate. And all you're going to do with that slider, even if it's up, but it's off the plate, only thing you're going to do with it is flip it the other way for a single, which is what you saw on Monday night from Bryce Elder and the Marlins. So a good start from him. Certainly his first start back up at the big league level this year. Looking forward to seeing more from him this year. And again, hopefully he is able to stick in that rotation, kind of solidify things and bring some normalcy through the rotation, at least for a little while. We know injuries are coming. They're likely. But for right now, Bryce Elder off to a good start with the Braves in 2024. I got more I want to get to from this game, and I really want to do a deep dive into Matt Olsen and Austin Riley and their struggles early on. We'll try to get to all of that here next. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, and you don't when you use GameTime. GameTime is a fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. GameTime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the GameTime app actually go down closer to first pitch. You can get up to 60% off by buying last-minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, and theater events near you. I use GameTime almost exclusively now. The past several Braves games I've been to, I've used the GameTime app. It is super easy to use. You can buy tickets in 2 taps. A couple of features that I love about the GameTime app: view from your seat. Always want to know what my view is going to look like. You can see that right in the app, and all-in upfront pricing. You don't have to wait until you get to the checkout counter to see these huge inflated fees that are going to drive up the price. You know that all in upfront. I love that about GameTime. So download the GameTime app today. You can use our code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the GameTime app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. My wife and I started looking for life insurance several years ago whenever we started having kids, and the process was super stressful. I wish we would have known about Policygenius at that time. They are the country's leading online insurance marketplace, saving you time and money so you can provide your family with a financial safety net starting today. With Policygenius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options offer same-day approval and avoid unnecessary medical exams. Policygenius helps you compare your options from top companies, and their team of licensed experts is on hand to help you talk you through it. Easily compare quotes from America's top insurers in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. Check life insurance off your to-do list in no time with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com/lockedonmlb or click the link in the description notes to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/lockedonmlb. You're watching Fox Sports, ESPN on your TV all day. You're constantly having to turn it down or mute it because of all the shouting going on about absolutely nothing. Make the switch over to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, I do have a lot more that I want to get into in Monday night's game, but I felt it necessary to break down that Bryce Elder start again, just because of how important it is for this Braves team and having somebody in that 5th spot. But we got to talk about Travis d'Arnaud. Hit his 5th home run in the last 3 games. Broke the ice on Monday. Neither team really could put a run on the board. Travis d'Arnaud got the 2-run homer. The 5 home runs and 8 at-bats, it's the first time a Braves player has done that in Atlanta history. He hit 11 home runs in 74 games last year, 18 the year before that in 107 games. So he's gotten a double-digit homers the past 2 years, and he's on a good pace to do that again this season. And he was basically a part-time player last year. He's now slugging .636. That's only behind Marcell Ozuna at .687. The gap after TDA is Arcia at .494. He talked about being shorter to the baseball. You can really see that, especially in a hit later in the game. He had a single to left. The ball was absolutely crushed. He just dropped the hands, dropped the barrel on the bat, and just absolutely drove it to left field. So he's in a really good place right now with his swing. I did just briefly want to mention, though, the walk before the home run that Ozuna at bat and some of the at bats Ozuna had tonight, and why I talked so much last year of why I believe it is a different player and why I can buy into the results from Marcell Ozuna. It's just because the all-around at bats are better. You could see the frustration in Ryan Weathers in that walk to Ozuna before the Travis Darno home run, where he made him work, took some close pitches, and he earned that walk. And I feel like that led into the Travis Darno at bat. So I wanted to give some props to Ozuna there on that. And then just quickly, Travis Darno has an $8 million team option for next year. As long as he's healthy, as long as he wants to come back, it seems like a no-brainer at this point. Clearly, there's still some left in the tank. He's a great leader. Pitchers love throwing to him. I feel like that's probably going to happen for the Atlanta Braves. Acuna, he broke the Atlanta era record for stolen bases at 190. And AJ Minter, he broke the record for most holds in Braves history as well at 108. A lot more I want to talk about on Minter, but we'll get into it on another podcast. I want to shift gears and talk about the struggles of Riley and Olsen. I was going to talk about Acuna. We're already kind of running out of time here. We did do a deep dive on Acuna on last Tuesday's podcast, April 9th. You want to go back and listen to that. He's really just struggling to get at fastballs. And I mean, look at his numbers right now. They're really good. It's just the power's not there. As for Riley, it's honestly similar type of issues to Acuna right now. He's hitting just 129 against four-seam fastballs this year with a -6 run value on that pitch. He was great on four-seamers, or he wasn't great on four-seamers last year, -2 run value and a 250 average, but still you would take that over what you're getting right now from him on four-seamers. Just a brutal start to the season, and he seems to be getting fastballs a lot more early on. 68% of the time this year, he's getting fastballs compared to 59% last year. So pitchers are definitely taking advantage of that. You can see it against Acuna as well. Acuna, you could always, the spot to get him was in. Is why he gets upset that he gets hit so much, and fans get upset that the tower gets brushed so much. But that's the one spot to get him. And you can see pitchers, especially this year, because Acuna is struggling with it so much, they continue to go with the hard stuff up and in. And it's been very effective. He's batting .385 against sliders this year, but he has a whiff rate over 50%. And I feel like that's really been accumulated in this past week, where he has really gone back to whiffing at the slider down and away, something that he has had his trouble with throughout his career, laying off that slider and really just not picking it up and not recognizing it out of the hand. The K rate is the same. The walk rate is 1 point lower. The barrel rate is 3 points lower. The average exit velocity is 2 points lower I'm comparing this year to last year. There's nothing really drastic there in the batted ball profile that tells me something is off with Austin Riley. I'm not concerned about him at all. He has had inconsistencies throughout his brief career. It's something he talked about going into 2023 that he wanted to get better at, is not having these big peaks and valleys. For the most part, he's good, but sometimes he can go into these sometimes two week long slumps for Austin Riley. And you really hate it when it's your three hitter. You would love your three hitter to be a little bit more consistent than that. And like I said, he's going to be more good than bad, but there has been a trend for Austin Riley throughout his career where he can have some really big lows that happen for weeks, 2 weeks at a time. And that seems to be where Austin Riley is right now. As for Matt Olson, you look at the batted ball profile for him, it is nearly identical to what he did last year. So there's no concerns at all right there for Austin or for Matt Olson. I don't have concerns for either of these guys, but certainly not for Matt Olson. His batted ball data looks exactly the same. He's barreling up the baseball. He's in the 90th percentile or higher for average exit velocity, barrel percentage, and hard hit percentage. His sweet spot rate is actually up from last year, and that's the amount of time you're hitting the ball on the bat in what they would consider the sweet spot. He's actually doing that better this year. The only concern with me for Matt Olson is just the K rate. It's up to 28%, but we saw a huge K rate from him last April, and then he was able to bring that down and finished around 23%. So hopefully it's just another kind of slow start for Matt Olson in the strikeout department, and he's going to get that corrected. But when he's making contact, he's still making really loud, hard contact that's ultimately going to lead to home runs and the average going up. Look, we knew the average probably wasn't going to be 280 again like it was last year. That was somewhat of an outlier. His expected batting average right now is 249. I think he probably settles in the middle somewhere as a 260, 270-ish type hitter. And assuming the power comes back, and it will come back, you will certainly take that for somebody who's likely going to hit 40 home runs. If he hits 260, 270, it's going to be another great season for Matt Olson. His batting average on balls in play the last 6 games before Monday night was 091. Now, he did have a 37% strikeout rate. There's a lot of strikeouts in there, so not as much balls in play, but still, that's pretty unlucky. And even looking at Monday night, he was 0 for 3 on balls in play, including 2 lineouts on balls that were hit really hard. So I am not concerned about Matt Olson in the slightest. Like I said, the batted ball data is all there. The only real concerning thing are the strikeouts. We saw that last year, and then we saw him adjust and do a really good job of that the rest of the way. In the end, we are talking about guys in Acuna who has a 134 WRC plus right now. 100 is league average. He did have a 170 WRC plus last year, so I understand why maybe fans are a little concerned, worried he's not up to that level of standard just yet. Riley has a 112 WRC plus, and Matt Olson has a 117 WRC plus. Yes, those are down from where we expect those MVP candidates to be, but nothing in their batted ball profile suggests they won't turn it around. For Olsen, it's a little bit of bad luck and too many strikeouts. For Acuna and Riley, it seems like they're just missing the fastballs. The timing's just still not there for the fastballs. Those things can be corrected, and once they do, we're going to see these guys be the MVP level players that they are. Again, the encouraging thing is, despite all that, the Braves have the best winning percentage in baseball. They have the best offense in baseball. And that just goes to show how deep this lineup is, that you can cover your 1, 3, and 4 hitters in the lineup who are not playing up to their MVP level potential, and you still have the best offense in baseball, because Travis Darno has gone crazy. Marcell Ozuna has gone crazy at the beginning of the year. Orlando Arcia has been great. Michael Harris has had his moments as well. It's just up and down this lineup. They have the potential to carry guys who maybe be having an off week or two. But again, I'm not seeing anything from Austin Riley and Matt Olson that suggests that a big decline is coming. I think both of those guys will turn things around, and most likely they'll do it here pretty soon. Speaking of guys that need to turn things around, Max Fried's beginning to this season has been uncharacteristic, to say the least. He had a good start against Miami his last time he faced them. Hopefully, same thing will happen this time around, and he can get back on track. We'll discuss that here next. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime. The scoreboard's not looking too good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. I'm talking about the smash hit mobile game, Monopoly Go. It lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress or with your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Look, I'm at the doctor's office. I'm at the dentist office. I see people playing this on their phone all around me. It is a very popular game right now, and we just want to let you know how you can get in on the action. You can play with your friends, crack open community chests, and end tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Before we get into Tuesday night's game between the Braves and the Marlins, Trevor Rogers and Max Fried, I want to give a little bit of an update on Ozzy Albies. He was able to take batting practice on Monday, which is just incredible. I think the only hurdle for him right now is run the bases. I don't believe he's done that yet, but that'll obviously be a big test for him on that toe. He's eligible to be back this Friday. Could be then or soon after, but it sounds like whatever the case, Ozzy Albies will be back really, really soon, which would be great for this Braves lineup. Bring some offense back into it and put everybody back kind of in their spots in the order. I have enjoyed the defense over there from Guillorme, and even David Fletcher on Monday night made some good defensive plays. I didn't really get into the defense much for Monday night. I wanted to, but Austin Riley, he may not win the Gold Glove. I haven't been able to watch everybody else. I know Brian Hayes is great. Arenado still exists. I can't imagine he's not at least a top 3 finalist right now in Austin Riley. He just looks amazing over there. Matt Olsen has looked extremely good at first base. I talked about the defense from Fletcher and Guillorme. Orlando Arcia has been amazing. He had a barehanded play, almost got Jazz. Just the instinctiveness of Arcia on that play to look up and say, Jazz is busting it down the line. I can't go to the glove here. I have to go to the bare hand. It's my only chance, and do that mid-play. I don't think that was his intention from the beginning. I think that was an in-play decision he made based on the way that Jazz was getting down the line, and he almost made that play. Riley had a backhanded play on a short hop that's just, he makes it look so easy. I promise you it is not. You can go try it out in the backyard, and you can't do it. And then he also had a barehanded play that I know you're not going to do. Just some great stuff from Austin Riley. Great stuff from this Braves defense. So I want to make sure that I highlighted that while also telling you that Ozzy Albies could be back very, very soon for the Braves. Now, diving into Tuesday's matchup, Trevor Rogers versus Max Fried. Rogers last time out versus the Braves, 5 innings, 8 hits, 1 walk, but just 2 earned runs with 5 strikeouts. Braves felt like they left some opportunities there against Rogers last time. Hopefully that's not the case this time around. In his last start, which was against the Giants, 5 2/3 innings, 4 hits, no walks, 1 earned, and 6 strikeouts. So he's been very good. The key thing about Rogers and why it's such a good matchup with the Braves for Rogers, he hasn't allowed a home run all year. And going back to 2020, he has the 9th best home run per 9 ratio at just 0.82. FYI, Max Fried has the 2nd best home run per 9 ratio on that list at 0.68, only behind Logan Webb at 0.63. But Rogers does a great job keeping the ball in the park. Obviously, we know that's the Braves' strength. They want to lift, separate, get those 2-3-run homers, and that's how they generally score their runs. But you're going to have to manufacture some things against Trevor Rogers. You're going to have to string some hits together. 52.3% ground ball rate for Trevor Rogers. He uses a 4-seam, changeup, sinker, and slider to get that weak contact and that all those ground balls. So again, hopefully the Braves can get to him a little bit more this time around, come up with some big hits with runners on base, take advantage there, use their speed to manufacture some runs in this game, and knock Trevor Rogers out early, get to that Marlins bullpen. Max Fried. Here's the big question for me. This is what I'm obviously going to be tuned in on. As deep as the dive as I did on Bryce Elder today, it may be just as deep on Max Fried coming up on Wednesday's podcast, which, by the way, I'm hoping to have Pratt on from Locked On Marlins. Hoping to have Peter Pratt on here. Sorry, Peter, your first name eluded me for a second. But I'm hoping to have Peter Pratt from Locked On Marlins on with me on Wednesday or Thursday. He is a just great podcast host, really funny guy. He's really great follow on Twitter. So hopefully able to get him on the show to break down this Marlins Braves matchups. But as for Max Fried, what does the command look like? It's 4 starts now. Really haven't seen great command from him in any of them. He did look good against the Marlins last time out, just 1 earned on 4 hits and 1 walk over 6 1/3. But even in that one, I felt like he was battling command, and I felt like it was more the lineup that he was facing that helped him out in that one. And look, I'll take it again, but I do want to see him be able to control his pitches a little bit more. He has a -5 run value on his 4-seamer this year. Last year it was +4, and it had been +12, +11, +6, and +4 in the previous years before that. He just hasn't had great command of it. Can he get by with just his 4-seamer and his curve? Because it feels like the only 2 pitches that he has somewhat of a grip on right now. What is the effectiveness of his slider, changeup, sinker? Can he get those on track? In his 2022 season, he had a positive run value of 4 or more on the 4-seamer, curve, slider, changeup, and sinker. But just so far this year, I don't feel like he has a good grasp on any of those pitches, which is crazy to say for Max Fried. Maybe it's a mechanical adjustment. I'm not sure, but either way, that is definitely what I'll be watching for on Tuesday night. What does that command look like for Max Fried? Is he able to spot those pitches where he wants? He's still good enough because those pitches have so much movement on them to create that weak contact and get outs as he did the last time against the Marlins and even against the Astros, where he had basically nothing and was still able to get through 5 innings there of 3 earned. But in order to get back to the Max Fried that we're used to, need to see better command on those pitches. So that's what we'll be watching for on Tuesday night. That will do it for this episode of Locked On Braves. Want to let you know again that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Again, looking at Peter Pratt on the show from Locked On Marlins, either on Wednesday or Thursdays. We'll have our Around the League segment this week as well, and then our Mailbag podcast coming up on Friday. Make sure you subscribe to Locked On Braves on YouTube. If you're new, hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you follow us on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast, and we will talk to you next time.